Energy Espresso stands as a captivating gateway, merging the pulsating world of energy innovations with the deeply ingrained culture of coffee. Every episode serves as a fresh brew of ideas, featuring thought-provoking discussions on the latest in energy technologies, sustainability efforts, and the global transition towards greener alternatives. We invite energy experts, innovators, and thought leaders to share their insights and visions for a sustainable future. Energy Espresso is more than just a podcast. It's a community for those passionate about making a difference and those eager to learn more about the energy that powers our world and the coffee that fuels our days. So, join us on this journey and let's discover together the fascinating intersection of energy solutions and coffee culture, one episode at a time. The Energy Espresso Podcast is brought to you by the following sponsors. AMP's diversified contract power generation fleet delivers fully managed power with mobile assets ranging from 35 megawatts through 2.5 megawatts, with the objective to provide a utility-like experience. Contact our team today to learn more. Let's talk power and get amped.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Energy Espresso. My name is Dave Bosco, and we're coming to you live today from the DEP Barbecue out here in the beautiful Permian Basin. And I've got a good friend that I've known for a long time on the show with us today. We've got Shane Hackenberg with Joliet Motors.
Yep.
Shane, how are you enjoying this absolutely beautiful day that we got in the Permian Basin, hanging out with friends?
Oh, man. Well, we were just joking. It's a new day. It's a new dawn. I think there's a little pep in the giddy-up step of the oil field today.
It is. I'm telling you, everybody was excited for being in the Permian all together, collaborating and kind of meeting up and having a combination of barbecue and cheers with friends.
Absolutely.
And then all of a sudden, Red starts showing up, and here we go, baby.
Yep. It's you know what's amazing about being out here right now? I mean, not only is the weather phenomenal, blue sky, not a cloud in the sky, but just the smell.
Yes.
Just walking around and smelling what these folks are cooking up. I can't wait to dive into that later on today.
Yes, it is going to be borderline habit forming, I would say.
And there's probably going to be a little bit of a celebration tonight. So I hope they have enough alcohol. They might have to order some more.
From what I saw, everybody's tents were well stocked up.
Looks
so I'm
pretty
like,
good.
I think there's going to be a major dent put in it.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Shane, to kind of get the episode started, what we usually do is we get the conversation energized.
Yeah.
And this is the Energy Espresso, right?
Yep.
So what's actually really cool and interesting is Free Reign Coffee is sponsoring the podcast coffee house here at the Upright area at the DEP Barbecue.
Uh-huh.
And what we have is the coffee that gentleman from Free Reign made for us is American Dirt.
I love that name.
I love it too, because we're in the dirt. This is where a lot of people forget, the amount of labor and blue-collar jobs that are well paid here in the United States or in the oil field provides a ton of upward mobility for people. And I think it's very appropriate today that we are trying the Free Reign American Dirt coffee. So let's have a taste and kind of you give me your opinion on what you think about this, because this is, I think, both of our first time.
Let's salute, and hopefully we're not shaking. It's windy out here. Trust me. It's
Cheers.
not anything from last night. Well. That's dirty-licious, man.
That is. What's interesting, obviously I like coffee.
Yep.
And usually with dark coffees, like you think about, your espresso roasts and things like that, it almost has a very bitter, very strong undertaste that kind of rolls on the back of your tongue and kind of hits you in your throat, and you get that kind of reaction. This is a dark roast, but is absolutely butter smooth.
Yeah, it's smooth. There's just a little hint of bitterness, which I like.
Yeah, I do as well.
My palate has been refined over the years.
Yes.
I used to be a heavy milk and sugar guy with my coffee, and now it's like the dirtier, the better.
Yeah, you really get the flame. We're drinking it black today, folks. This was actually roasted in from a process perspective out of like an industrial coffee machine. So I would imagine this in like an AeroPress or a Jura coffee machine, where you end up being able to get the high pressure to get some of that cream taste from the coffee beans on top. I'm gonna go and buy some and actually try that.
Yeah,
it's fantastic. So, Shane, we're out here in the Permian Basin. Conversation's energized. We're meeting with friends. We're hanging out, enjoying ourselves. It's a new day. What does it look like for Joliet Motors? And why don't we start off by, you being able to share kind of who Shane Hackenberg is, if folks don't know who you are. Mm-hmm. What is Joliet Motors? What do you guys do? What areas do you play in? Kind of 2-minute elevator pitch in the oil and gas business.
Okay. Yeah, so, and I appreciate that. Well, I haven't figured out what I'm going to be when I grow up, but that's okay. But in terms of Joliet as a company, Joliet started, over 90 years ago. In fact, we just had our 90th year anniversary up in Joliet. We're based up in Joliet, Illinois. Started out as a family-owned and operated motor repair facility.
Okay.
I got involved with the organization, with the company, roughly 16 years ago. And ironically enough, I was in the medical world, in medical sales, selling medical device. And I met a guy on my street, lived 5 houses down. His name's Tim Tibbett. And long story short, it was a crawfish boil. We hit it off. He said, man, I want you to come work for me. I'm not looking for a job. And he said, no, I really want you to come work for me. And I'm like, what am I going to be doing? He's like, you're going to be selling motors in the oil field. And that's a 180 from the medical device world.
Yeah, that's definitely like the opposite of the bookend.
Right. So I went from super high regulations to what our oil industry is, which I love. It's a big fraternity, and so that was roughly 16, 17 years ago. He had built up the oil and gas industry, and he was originally from the Joliet area, Chicago area.
Yep.
And so he did such a bang-up job, he had to kind of go into ops. I kind of filled in and kind of went into outside sales, handling his accounts, trying to grow, business outside of that. And that's basically how I cut my teeth in the organization. Tim is now the CEO of the company.
Oh, that's awesome.
And, he gave me a title, VP of Sales, so that's what I'm doing now. So in terms of where we're playing in the industry, we cut our teeth originally in the DC market, providing, equivalent to a GE 752 for drilling rig applications.
Got it.
And then went into as the market evolved into the AC VFD market, high spec rigs.
Yep.
We developed AC motors, and now we have motor offerings for the drilling market from 1,000 horsepower up to 2,500 horsepower.
Okay.
And then we also are heavily involved in the frac market, which we started exploring, 6-7 years ago, trying to develop that market.
And it's been absolutely phenomenal what the frac market has transitioned into. One thing that I've noticed in my career in oil and gas is we usually hold on to technology and get way too attached to a concept or a piece of equipment and have a really difficult time letting go.
Yeah.
And what's been absolutely awesome to kind of see unfold is, you look at 1950s technology into 2008, 2010 timeframe-ish. A lot of the equipment, whether it's frac, drilling had obviously a lot more advancements, production applications. A guy could come back from the 1950s, being out of the oil field for 20 or 30 years and go, that looks exactly like what I use, except maybe the emissions were different on the engine, right?
Yeah, if you think about what would the father, one of the forefathers of frac, which was Mitchell.
Yep.
He came to a frac site today, an electric frac, and if it's cold enough, the auxiliary blowers they're not operating because the ambient temperature is so low.
Yep.
And you go out there and you can't tell the fracking, you can't hear anything besides wind. If there's crickets, it's an eerie thing. All you see is just a strobe light on the pumpers notifying you like, hey, we're moving, 10,000, PSI down hole,
Yep.
at alarming rate.
Yep.
He would probably go, what?
Yeah. That nothing's working.
Yeah, right.
Well, and what's more phenomenal is I had never heard a positive displacement piston pump, the actual business end of a frac pump,
right,
ever making sound in my life.
Right.
And have a little bit of tinnitus in my ears from being around heavy equipment, and you go, is that thing making an actual like sucking and whizzing noise?
Yeah,
like it's eerie.
It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing, too.
It is.
Yeah.
But, from an HSE perspective, not having to wear hearing protection, people getting exhausted, folks being able to elevate into these high-tech jobs, it's something that, we talk about a lot in this industry is, getting from this like brute force approach to more technology, high-tech driven electrification really is an enabler for folks to go, you get to elevate into these other worlds that you may only experience in like a power plant technology or, wastewater plant that probably uses a lot of your guys' electric motors as well, mining operations, right? It's super cool to have this, like, I almost feel we're in this primavera stage, for lack of a better term, the rebirth of oil and gas, and we're maturing as an industry.
Yeah, no, I think we're in a technological boom right now.
Yes.
AI's coming in, and just the efficiencies that we're gaining through automation, through AI, through just understanding how to operate the equipment more efficiently.
Yep.
I was just talking to a drilling contractor the other day, and I asked him, he's using our 2,000 horsepower motors on their drilling rigs, and I was like, well, how's it going out there? And he's like, the operator loves it. I'm not going to name drop or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, what speed are you running? He goes, all of it, then more. And I just said, you know what? Let's just leave it there.
Yeah. Wide open throttle.
I'll take that a win. But he's like, moving forward, you guys are in a good spot, man. I was like, hey, that's all I want to hear.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That's awesome.
So they're running the heck out of everything, but they're doing it so efficiently. It's an amazing time.
Now, Joliet Motors, getting back to that, Shane. For folks who don't know Joliet Motors, obviously, company been around for a long time. Yep. You guys were a motor rewind, rebuild shop.
Yep.
You're building brand new motors now.
Yes.
And you also, if I'm not mistaken, are part of a larger parent organization, correct?
Yeah, that's a very polite way to put it. So our major OEM partner, and the partnership goes back to the mid-'60s, is a rather small triglomerate called Hitachi.
Not a pretty small name. I mean, for anybody who knows mining applications, right?
Yes.
Like Hitachi builds a fantastic, rigid, truck base and a lot of other really, really awesome equipment that, is electrified and has been for a long time, right?
And they've been a great organization. It's been, one of the reasons why I've been, one of the many reasons why I've been with Joliet for the 16, 17 years, and that could be another 30-minute episode. But at the end of the day, having a parent organization or a group like Hitachi behind you, I sleep very well at night. They are very conservative in their approach. At times, they almost over-engineer. The oilfield has still got kind of like get her done, Larry the Cable Guy sort of mentality.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't need a 30-year machine. Just give me a 5-year machine.
And that's, that could be.
You faced that. I'm sure you.
Well, I mean, man, unfortunately, my whole career is like, going from, my transition from mechanical to the electric side of it. And, customers being willing to go like, nah, run that pump to failure. Let the engine throw a rod through the block. Let the transmission smoke.
Yeah. Let's
go ahead and destroy the power end just to get the job done.
Right.
And it's short-sighted, right? Because total cost of ownership, obviously.
Sure.
Heavy CapEx, R&M costs that go into that. You don't have a usable core. With an electric motor, obviously you don't want to just have equipment fail. You're going with that value prop because you're reducing life cycle costs. You're making it safer for people on location. You don't want to have getting out the 4-inch paintbrush and painting broad strokes of oil and gas of yore.
Yeah.
We've been that kind of just run it till it fails, short spurts, big, CapEx boom cycles. With the electric motor piece of this, that all goes away.
Yeah, it goes away, and there's a little bit of a learning curve.
Sure.
It's especially from the frac side of the world because they're just getting acclimated and getting familiar with these electric motors and these machines. And so we're having issues and they're good issues, where they're over greasing. Because they're not used to not having to grease, right?
Absolutely.
And and so we had an issue with one of the motors on one of the sites, and long story short, we asked him, he's like, I don't understand, I'm greasing it, every week. And these things are really made to not be greased for 25 to 30,000 hours, so that ended up being the issue.
Got it.
So that's probably on us too. We've got to educate and be forthcoming and, try to be proactive in terms of like, hey, we really need to emphasize you don't really need to do anything besides, maybe, take out the filters and make sure the filters. Other than that, with your VFD systems, with your controls, anything that's going on that is abnormal in the operation of that motor, you're going to get an alarm, right?
Absolutely. And getting into that, because I think that's, you brought up the AI, the technology, digitization piece. Quantifying for customers when that maintenance or intervention to be able to maintain that piece of equipment. Can you talk about what you guys are doing? Because, I'm a freaking nerd when it comes to technology,
Love
right?
It. Me too.
And so you get into frequency deviations. You can see inside of an electric motor, feedback that you can get from RTD sensors. What are you guys doing to be able to capture information, quantify that for customers and say, hey, this piece of equipment needs X, Y, Z to go ahead and be highly reliable and available?
Well, hey, man, I appreciate that. You set the stage beautifully there. So
you're welcome.
No, thank you. So one of the things we're doing is we are implementing a new technology to us. It's an ESA technology, electrical signal analysis technology called Empath.
Okay.
And basically what it does is takes frequencies and anything that's electrically involved, either on a drilling rig or a frac site. So any voltage when it comes to an AC/DC motor, down to pumps, gearboxes, fans, auxiliaries, VFDs, transformers, wherever that electrical current's going, we're able to analyze that and basically get a picture and a snapshot in a really short amount of time, within a couple minutes, of where the inefficiencies are happening in those applications.
Okay.
And then also what that does is through algorithms and probably a little AI, we're able to determine and actually predict upcoming failures before you have the tattletale, typical signs of like bearings making noise, smoke coming out of a motor, stuff like that. And so that's something I'm very excited about. We've done some beta testing on some drilling rigs. We've done it on some frac sites. We can also look at vibration and harmonic issues, because a lot of these big pumping systems out there, harmonics become to play, pumps want to align, and so it's almost at this point it's almost too much information. And at first when I was presented with this, I was kind of like, I'm kind of a skeptic by nature.
Sure.
My wife would say pessimist.
Yeah.
Whatever. With that being said, I was.
It's okay to trust and verify.
Yeah. And. But, this technology, the original application was used in nuclear reactors.
Wow.
So instead of somebody going down to the bottom nuclear reactor and like stethoscope it, who wants to do that? Yeah. At the end of the day, they're able to utilize this technology and determine the health and predictive failure of a nuclear reactor.
That's fantastic.
So, that's one example of where our industry and our oil field is going. It's an amazing time right now.
But that's what I love about kind of all of these new technologies getting introduced into oil and gas. You think about like nuclear reactors, right?
Yep.
You better be damn sure you are feeling comfortable about A, entering into that space, or B, that thing's not entering into a meltdown mode to trust technology, right?
Yeah.
And it has worked really, really well in these other, very highly reliable, highly available applications that, are dangerous, right? And so it's, I'm a big fan of the mentality, trust in God, all others bring data.
Yeah, amen.
And,
Preach.
Yeah, and being able to, I feel take that experience that's in these other markets that is directly translatable to oil and gas. That's how we get better.
Yeah, and then there's so many NDAs flying around technology. I know I have firsthand knowledge of a water evaporation technology utilizing gas turbines that can evaporate at extremely large volumes compared to what's out there right now.
Okay.
Utilizing gas turbines and the heat profile and the exhaust of those turbines. I have a buddy of mine, he's just down the road in Crane. He's treating 100,000 barrels a day with a major producer.
That's cool.
For H2S.
That's cool.
There's all kinds of neat stuff happening. I can't be a big enough advocate for our industry. And, one thing, like my daughter, she pointed at a windmill, and she's like, look at that green energy. And long story short, I just said, what do you know about that? She's like, nothing, besides it's clean. I was like, well, it's not that clean, darling.
It's not.
And so I'll just leave it at that. That's probably another conversation. But at the end of the day, man, we are just in such an amazing place, man.
It is.
We do, for what we do, if you've ever been on a pipeline, when they're constructing it, it's amazing. They put it back to its original state.
Yep.
And I mean, you can't.
You would never tell it was there.
It's unbelievable.
There's a sign, maybe.
We are such good stewards, and probably the biggest advocates in terms of being an environmental, standpoint.
1,000%.
It's amazing, and we just got to be more boisterous about that. Kind of like the Trumpers that came out for the election.
Yeah.
We got to be loud and proud about it.
No, being an advocate for this industry, a lot of folks are, want to be quiet. And listen, being humble and kind.
Sure.
I respect that. Being super loud and making noise, it can be effective, but I think quantifying and sharing actual information, use cases, like that is what the public needs to hear. Yep. That's what the investment community needs to hear. If you're looking at, look at oil and gas today from a, post-election cycle.
Yep.
Oilfield services, from what I saw at least, last time I looked at my phone, you're at 8 to 12%, single day bump. Mm-hmm. E&Ps are anywhere from 2.5% to 4%. We need to go ahead and be able to get people comfortable with investing in oil and gas again, because it's the only place I believe you can make a decent return in the market, severely undervalued. This being the Energy Espresso, we all start out, not everybody, but the majority of us start out our day getting the energy we need to start our mornings by having a cup of coffee.
Yep.
But oil and gas energizes and powers the world.
Beautiful.
Right?
Is that your slogan, or did you just come up with it?
Listen, you know me, I'm all full of euphemisms and things and stuff that I can just come up with on the fly.
It's good coffee.
It is good coffee. But this is, the sustainability approach that we have in, look, the produced water piece. That is the next big, and you and I have talked about this, that is the next big, hurdle as an industry we've got to overcome. And there's areas that I know we're kind of going down a rabbit hole but I'd rather let the conversation evolve and naturally go where it needs to. What they're doing at ExxonMobil, for example, with the SMAC over in Arkansas, you've been seeing some of that.
Yep.
They're taking produced water. There's huge amounts of lithium deposits.
Yep.
Now, look, I think personally there is applications for batteries, but you look at the carbon intensity that goes into a mining operation and also the risk to the environment with leaching, and it's done in third world countries that use child labor. They don't have human rights policies. They use people as a means to an end. They are just those are not good places to do business, and they don't care about the environment.
Yeah.
You allow oil and gas companies to retool the same technologies that we have, right? And actually, folks, this was talked about on, Tuesday's podcast of this week, where we can retool our people, our equipment to be able to enter into some of these fringe technology areas that we are way more appropriately, educated and have the skills to be able to enter into those markets than Microsoft. You look at Bill Gates saying he's getting into hydrogen, for example.
Yep.
What the hell does that man know about managing molecules, right? Nothing. However, oil and gas companies truly know how to handle molecules, do it safely, manage the safety aspects of it, right? We've got to be much more forward thinking and going, hey, there's areas that we can add value and still retool our people, because we're going to need oil and gas for a very long time.
Yes.
And these other areas provide opportunities for us to, enter in some markets that are maybe on the fringe, but could have some legs.
Well, beautifully said there, with Trump being elected, with guys like Elon Musk, one of our major obstacles in terms of bringing all that to fruition is investors were always, very hesitant of investing in our industry.
Yeah.
Right, because of, obvious reasons. But hopefully with our new administration, we'll be able to alleviate some of the redundant permitting issues and regulatory issues, and so we can open this thing up and really expand on what you're talking about and start doing that. I mean, one of the beautiful things about the water evaporation stuff is they've done a lithium test.
Really?
They've done a lithium test, and
that's super cool.
They were able in a couple matter of days, and the only reason why I know these guys intimately is I originally got introduced to them because during the e-frac days when you and I first met, and I was out there trying to develop the marketplace.
Yeah, we're both evangelizing, right?
Really
I mean,
are,
that's
yeah.
honestly, it was like
Yeah.
more of the pull-through.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
an enabler. There's
Yeah.
a motor.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's generation.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
need somebody to take
So-
this and put it down hole.
So their parent company, that's what they do. They build power plants.
I love
and
it.
They refurbish, gas turbines.
Okay.
And so that's the parent company. And the byproduct of that is they're just a bunch of good old boys, and they're like, hey, man, what if we do this? And sure enough, they built a prototype, and there was a company in Louisiana, a lithium company, and they spent millions of dollars on their facility, and they were in a bind, and they brought vats of lithium water, and they were, within a matter of days, they were to take that lithium water and evaporate it down to 10%
That's awesome.
from 100% of whatever that is. And we're talking about water, and we've talked about this a lot.
Yeah.
4 or 5 barrels of water is used for to produce a barrel of oil.
Yep.
So what that equates to in the Permian, it's something like, I don't know, I think this is lowballing, but like 15 million barrels a day of water.
It's a phenomenal amount of water that is used, to go down hole.
Yep.
And that is produced water that comes back up to surface.
Right. And then what do you do with it?
Exactly. And permitting obviously will not allow you to manage SWDs.
Yep.
It's very difficult. Caverns and salt domes underground.
Yep.
They're only few and far in between. There's an opportunity, is what I like to use, to take a challenge
Yep.
and come up with a unique solution. Because look, I mean, you and I, and look, hopefully there's some opportunity for us to continue to have you on the podcast and us to run through these rabbit hole discussions, because you start like expanding your mind, because you got to almost go, hey, take off the blinders.
Yeah.
What is possible? It's not possible to do everything day one,
Yep.
right? It's a step function.
Yep.
However, you allow yourself to kind of evolve in these spaces and take the water problem, make it into an opportunity. You can turn that into a commodity. It's only lithium.
Yep.
Hydrogen can be produced
Hydrogen.
via that, right?
Right, yep.
There's folks who have been working on ways to go ahead and be able to take, water, recycle it.
Yep.
Recycling water has been something that's really difficult to do with produced water,
Yes.
because
It's
it
pretty
impacts,
nasty stuff, man.
It is. I mean, it's dangerous for people, obviously, and then it also impacts the component
Yeah.
life if you use that recycled water. And it's kind of like, hey, you're trading one for the other. So anyway, man, you and I, we could talk about this for days.
I just want to say one last thing, and,
Please.
and maybe people are like, what does that have to do with motors and power generation from our standpoint from Joliet's? And the thing that I love about it and why I'm involved with these folks is, at the end of the day, they're able to produce power at the same time.
Yep.
So if they're going to be, buying turbines or using turbines, putting in their IP to do this process, and I'm sure with your new hat, and by the way, congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome. If we're able to cogen and do all the things and start really kind of working on refining and being able to do something, really amazing with that produced water, well, guess what? There's a generator in attached to it.
1000%.
We can obviously repair that generator in. We can build generator ends, and so that's the tie-in of how I like to operate. Is I'm more solution based, because
I love it.
Because at the end of the day, Hitachi is an amazing company. Joliet's an amazing company, but the technology's been around for a long time. Let's say 60, 70 years. But if we can be creative and be part of a solution that refines our industry, that is really exciting.
Absolutely, dude.
Yep.
No, it's exciting, Shane. I'm really stoked to see, obviously, what the next 4 years bring us.
Oh yeah, it's an exciting time. It's gonna be a good time tonight.
It is. But outside of that, the rebirth that we're going through in oil and gas, and the maturing that we're turning into a mining operation, an aviation operation, right? It's a super cool time to be in this industry.
Yes, it is.
And the one other thing I would say is, how are you guys attracting talent? Because that is a big challenge, right? You look at, young folks coming out of college, they've obviously heard a lot of propaganda and fake news when it comes to oil and gas. They don't really understand how, solutions-oriented we are, how sustainable we produce our molecules.
Yep.
But how are you getting folks convinced out of college, or young folks looking to make career change, give us a chance, come into the electric motor industry, generator ends, we're in oil and gas, what's your pitch?
Yeah, so, for us, everybody took a hit during COVID. And like I was talking to Andy Hendricks with Patterson, and his biggest issue was labor. And what's happening now is I think the youth through the last 4 years, they've been enlightened. And one of the things we're doing is we're developing a culture. We're developing, our culture is family oriented. We do fun things. We have a speakeasy at our place that the guys did an amazing job on, and I'd love to have you come out. Maybe you do a podcast with us up there.
Love it.
And I think college education is very important. But if you're going in to get, and there's nothing wrong with this, but if you're going to get a poli-sci degree or something in economics, well, how does that translate into experience and going into the working world? And so for us, with our company, you can learn trade.
Yep.
And trades are very important.
1000%.
I mean, I always say that if I had my, to go back in the, my younger days and my older self talk to myself, I would have become either an electrician, a plumber, or probably a roofer.
Yep.
Because and that's going to be important for us we need all those trades to refine with us as we're providing the oil and gas industry. But we're developing culture. I think that's our biggest thing.
That's awesome, man.
Yep.
That is, if obviously, Jack Welch talks about
Yep.
culture eats, strategy for breakfast every single morning.
Yep.
You got to be able to nurture that, environment where you let people think openly, be creative, and having that. Like for me, variety is the zest of life, and that's with people too, right? You have different folks who think about things from multiple angles, and you can attack a solution much more quickly. And, having, like you and I were obviously type A, certain personality, right? And we're going to go, okay, yeah, we got the solution right here, 30,000 foot, but you need somebody to take it to the subterranean,
you got to be able to execute,
or ground level, and go, here's a sequence of events and steps on how we end up bring it to fruition, right?
Yeah, everybody's like, man, I couldn't do sales, and I was like, sales is not what you think it is.
No, it's not.
I'm a terrible sales guy. I can't say anything I don't believe in.
And listen, I would disagree with that you're a terrible sales guy.
Well, I mean, what I mean is I appreciate that, especially coming from you. But at the end of the day, I can't sell anything that I don't believe in, which means it's got to be a good product.
Yes.
For it to be a good product, I've got to have people, executing behind me.
Yeah, but your backstops.
Right. And so I'm just the mouthpiece. I'm just the person, out there trying to grow a brand. But at the end of the day, I'm nothing without the people and the team behind me.
1000%. Dude.
And they get all the credit in the world, and that's especially with our company. And that's another reason why I've been there for the last 16, 17 years and hope to be there for much longer.
That's awesome, man. And I love that from a leadership perspective, too, because it's like something I feel very strongly about is the kind of upside down pyramid, right?
Yep.
The guys who actually do the physical work, make things, make shit happen, right?
Yep.
They're at the top. As leaders, we're there to support, break down barriers, ensure that they have everything they need to be successful.
And I agree. And especially at my age, I made a lot of mistakes along the way. And if I have the opportunity to really mentor somebody, I mean, that's such a big opportunity and so fulfilling. And that's the way you pay it back, right?
1000%.
Yep.
Got to share that experience, strength, and hope.
Yep. Absolutely, I agree.
Well, Shane, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast, brother. I know we kind of jumped all over.
Yeah, that's what we do, though.
I know, dude. That's look, we have conversations here on the Energy Espresso
William
with friends.
Faulkner, stream of consciousness, right?
Absolutely.
Yep.
And Shane, you're on LinkedIn. If folks don't know you, how do they reach out to you?
You just go Shane Hackenberg on LinkedIn, and you'll find me.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Brother, I appreciate it. Folks, I appreciate you joining us from the Daniel Energy Partners Conference here in the Permian Basin at the barbecue. We'll be recording more podcasts and enjoying some more coffee.
Wonderful.
Thanks for joining the Energy Espresso. Again, my name is Dave Bosco, and we got Shane Hackenberg with us. Appreciate you being on the Energy Espresso today, buddy.
Yep. And what is today?
Today is a new day.
And what is today?
Today
on Wednesday?
is Wednesday. I think it's referred to as Hump Day.
But it's Trump Day.
There we go.
All right.
All right, partner.